Cold wind rushed through the narrow metal streets of New Orion City, a place where the lights never went out but the warmth often did. Under a broken neon sign that flickered the word home in half-dead letters, an alien girl sat quietly, hugging her knees. Her name was Lyra, a small silver-eyed child from the planet Charon. She had been living on the streets since her mother disappeared during a refugee raid. Lyra didn't beg, not anymore. People didn't trust her kind. Her small hands were always dirty, her clothes torn, but her eyes, those calm, glowing eyes, still held something rare: kindness. That morning, while digging through trash behind a food stall, something shiny caught her attention. It wasn't food or scraps, it was a black purse. Its texture was rich, smooth, and clean, something that didn't belong in the gutter. Curious, Lyra picked it up. The symbol printed on it made her freeze. It was the crest of the human diplomatic corps. Her heart pounded. Everyone in the city knew what that meant. The owner was someone powerful, maybe even dangerous. She could sell it and buy food for weeks. Her stomach growled as if to remind her of her hunger. But as she opened the purse, she found something that made her pause. A family photo. In it, a human man smiled beside a small alien boy. The boy was laughing, his eyes bright, and the man looked proud. Behind them was the flag of the United Federation. On the back of the photo, a message was written: "To my son, never lose faith in kindness." Lyra stared at those words for a long time. Kindness. It had been a long time since anyone had shown her any. Still, something in that picture made her decision clear. She would return it, but returning it wasn't easy. The city guards didn't let aliens walk near the diplomatic tower. The streets were full of scanners, drones, and people who looked away when she passed. Yet Lyra started walking, clutching the purse close to her chest. Rain began to fall, cold and sharp. By the time she reached the tall glass towers of the human district, her feet were bleeding. Two guards in blue armor stopped her instantly. "State your purpose," one of them barked. Lyra's voice was weak but steady. "I found this. It belongs to the Diplomat." The guards looked at each other, surprised. One of them took the purse from her hand, suspicious. You found this? Where?" "In the trash," she said quietly. "I didn't take anything." The guard laughed bitterly. "Right. You aliens don't steal. Ever." He motioned her to leave, but before he could dismiss her, a calm voice interrupted. "What's going on here?" A tall human man in a formal black coat stepped forward. His face was tired, but his eyes were sharp. The guard straightened immediately. "Sir, this alien was found carrying your purse." The man took the purse and opened it. His photo was still inside. His ID chip glowed faintly. Everything was untouched. He looked at the small, trembling girl before him. "You returned it?" he asked softly. Lyra nodded. "Yes, sir. I saw your family picture. You looked kind." For a long moment the man said nothing. Then, to everyone's shock, he knelt down so his eyes were level with hers. "What's your name?" "Lyra," she whispered. He smiled faintly. "I'm Ambassador Rian Hale, and you just saved me from a diplomatic disaster." If that purse had been stolen or copied, it could have started a war. The guards froze, realizing the weight of what she'd done. Rian stood and turned to his men. "Get her inside. Warm clothes, food, and a medic. Now." Lyra blinked in disbelief. "No, sir, I don't need—" But before she could finish, a warm coat was placed over her shoulders. For the first time in months, she felt heat. She didn't know why this human was being kind to her, but something deep inside told her this moment would change her life forever. As the door to the tower closed behind her, Lyra glanced back at the rain-washed street she used to call home. The world outside looked the same, but for her, everything had changed. She didn't know yet that this act of honesty would not only save her life, but shake the very core of interstellar politics, because Ambassador Hale wasn't just any diplomat. He was about to make a choice that would stun the entire galaxy. Warm air brushed Lyra's face as she stepped inside the towering diplomatic complex. It felt unreal. The shining floor reflected her small, muddy feet, and tall humans in clean suits stared at her with confusion. She tried to keep her head down, afraid to be thrown out any second. Ambassador Rian Hale walked beside her, his hands behind his back. "You must be hungry," he said quietly. Lyra didn't answer. She wasn't sure if it was a trick. Most people used kind words before pushing her away. Rian stopped near a reception counter. "Get her some food, fresh clothes, and please, No questions, he ordered. His voice was calm but firm. The staff obeyed immediately. Moments later, a human woman brought a tray of warm soup and bread. The smell made Lyra's stomach twist in hunger. She hesitated, waiting for someone to snatch it away. Go on, Rian said gently. It's for you. Lyra took a small bite, then another, then couldn't stop. Tears filled her eyes. It was the first real meal she'd had in weeks. When she finished, Ryan sat across from her. You said you live on the streets? She nodded slowly. Since my mother disappeared, do you know what happened to her? Lyra looked down. The soldiers came. They said aliens couldn't stay in the refugee zone. She told me to hide in the pipe. When I came out, she was gone. The diplomat stayed silent for a moment, his eyes darkening. And no one helped you after that? Lyra shook her head. Humans don't like us here. They think we're thieves or spies. But I'm not, I just wanted to survive. Ryan leaned back, thinking. He had seen the worst sides of politics, greed, lies, and fear. But this small alien girl had done something no powerful leader would. She had returned what she could have sold. He pressed a button on his communicator. Security chief, bring me the intel reports from the refugee raid last month. Cross-check for missing civilians from Karen, especially a woman named Sarah. Lyra's head snapped up. You'll look for my mother? Ryan smiled faintly. Yes, if she's alive, we'll find her. Before Lyra could reply, the door opened and a group of officials entered, their badges shining. The head of security, a strict woman named Captain Reese, frowned when she saw Lyra. Sir, with respect, that alien shouldn't be here, Reese said firmly. You don't know who she really is. She could be a plant. Ryan's voice stayed calm. She returned something priceless. That tells me more about her character than most people in this building. But sir, that's an order. Reese hesitated, then gave a short nod and left, though her glare lingered on Lyra. After she was gone, Ryan turned back to the girl. You may have done more than you realize, Lyra. This purse holds classified diplomatic codes. If the wrong people got it, they could trigger a war between humans and Karen. Lyra's eyes widened. War? I didn't mean... Ryan raised a hand gently. You didn't, you stopped it. He stood up, walking to the window overlooking the glowing city. Sometimes peace depends on one person doing the right thing, even when no one's watching. He turned back to her. You did the right thing. Lyra's chest tightened. No one had ever said that to her before. At that moment, a communication alert buzzed. Ryan answered. Yes? Sir, said a nervous voice. News just broke. Someone leaked that a street alien entered the diplomatic tower. Reporters are gathering outside. They're saying you're harboring a spy. Ryan's jaw tightened. Tell them the truth, he said coldly. That she's a hero. The aide's voice stammered. Sir, that could ruin your position. Then so be it. He turned back to Lyra, his eyes steady. Lyra, how would you like to stay here for a while? Until we find your mother. I can't let you go back out there. Her mouth fell open. Stay here? With you? He nodded. You saved my future. Let me save yours. For a long moment, Lyra couldn't speak. She felt warmth spread through her chest, a strange mix of disbelief and hope. Thank you, she whispered. Outside, flashes from reporters' cameras lit up the night. The image of the human diplomat and the small alien girl soon spread across the city feeds. Half the world called it madness. The other half called it hope. But deep within the tower, as Lyra curled up in a clean bed for the first time in years, she didn't care what the world said. She only knew one thing. Her life would never be the same again. And in the quiet dark, Ambassador Hale sat by his window, watching the storm gather over New Orion City. Didn't know it yet, but Lyra's act of kindness had already started something far greater than either of them imagined, something that would soon test the loyalty of every human and alien on the planet. Morning sunlight spilled through the glass walls of the diplomatic tower, turning the city below into a sea of silver. Inside, the halls buzzed with whispers. Everyone had heard the story, an alien street girl rescued by the human ambassador himself. Some called it an act of kindness, others called it a mistake. Lyra sat quietly at the breakfast table, dressed in clean clothes that still felt strange on her skin. The food before her was rich and warm, but she ate slowly, afraid that someone might suddenly tell her it was all a dream. Ambassador Ryan Hale entered the room, reading from a glowing datapad. "Good morning, Lyra," he said, smiling briefly. She looked up shyly. "Good morning, sir." "You can call me Ryan," he replied. "No need for sir." Lyra blinked, unsure how to respond. No one had ever asked her to use their first name before. Ryan sat down across from her. "I have news. Our search team found something. A record of your mother's identification. It was logged during the raid. But the file ends abruptly. That means she might still be alive." Lyra's hands trembled. "Alive? You think she's alive?" "I believe so. But we must be careful. Someone doesn't want that truth coming out." Before Lyra could ask what he meant, a security officer rushed into the room. "Sir, urgent report. Someone accessed your personal files last night without clearance." Ryan stood instantly. "Who? We don't know yet." The access point was from the lower comms room. "It's been sealed, but—" The officer hesitated. "Sir, whoever it was. They used your ID code." Lyra's eyes widened. "Your code? But how—" Ryan frowned deeply. "Someone's framing me." He turned to the officer. "Double the guards. Lock down all transmissions leaving this building. No one talks to the press. Not one word." The officer saluted and hurried away. Ryan took a deep breath and faced Lyra again. "I'm afraid things are going to get difficult." Lyra swallowed hard. "Because of me?" He shook his head. "No, because of them. People who can't stand the idea that a human diplomat would trust an alien child." Ryan's communicator buzzed. A video feed opened showing Captain Reese, the same officer who had doubted Lyra before. "Sir," Reese said coldly, "I have orders from the council. They demand you surrender the alien girl for questioning." Ryan's tone hardened. "The council has no authority to question a civilian under my protection. They claim she's connected to the data breach." Lyra froze. "What? No. I didn't—" Ryan raised a hand to silence her, his eyes fixed on the screen. "You know that's a lie, Captain." "I follow orders, sir," Reese replied, her voice like ice. "If you resist, the council will send agents themselves." The screen went dark. Lyra felt her chest tighten. "They're coming for me." Ryan turned to her, calm but determined. "Listen to me, Lyra, you did nothing wrong. But someone powerful wants to use you as a weapon, something to turn humans and aliens against each other again." He opened a secret panel in the wall, revealing a small passage filled with dim lights. "This tower has a hidden route to the old evacuation tunnels. You'll go there if things get worse. I'll find your mother and clear your name." Lyra stared at him. "You're risking everything." "For me?" Ryan smiled faintly. "You risked everything when you returned that purse. I'm just returning the favor." Suddenly, the sound of alarms echoed through the corridors. Red lights flashed. Automated voices repeated, "Unauthorized entry detected. Council agents approaching." Ryan pulled on his coat and handed Lyra a small metallic pendant. "Take this. It holds my security signature. If anyone questions you, show them this. They'll know you're under my protection." Footsteps thundered outside the door. "Go," Ryan whispered. "Now." Lyra ran through the hidden passage, her heart pounding. Behind her, she heard voices shouting, orders, warnings, the clatter of weapons. She reached the end of the tunnel and stopped. Through a narrow window, she could see the city stretching endlessly, full of light and noise. She felt so small, so lost again. But this time she wasn't alone. Meanwhile, in the upper floor, Ryan faced Captain Reese and several armed agents. "Where is the girl?" Reese demanded. "Safe," Ryan said calmly. "You're protecting a criminal." "No," he replied firmly. "I'm protecting a child who did the right thing when no one else would." Reese raised her weapon slightly. "Then I'll have to take you in too, sir." But Ryan didn't move. "You'll have to shoot through a diplomat, Captain." "Are you prepared to start that war yourself?" The silence that followed was sharp as glass. Then Reese lowered her gun, but her eyes burned with quiet fury. "This isn't over," she said, turning away. Ryan exhaled slowly, knowing things were about to spiral far beyond his control, and far below. As Lyra stepped into the city's hidden tunnels, a strange voice echoed from the shadows, soft, mechanical, and chilling. "Little one, I've been looking for you." Her blood ran cold. Who or what had found her first? The tunnels were cold and smelled of metal and dust. Lyra's small footsteps echoed as she moved deeper into the darkness, clutching the pendant Ryan had given her. The glowing lights on the ceiling flickered weakly, casting long shadows on the curved walls. She kept hearing the same whisper, soft and mechanical. "Little one, I've been looking for you," her heart pounded. She stopped walking and looked around. "Who's there?" Silence, then a faint click, a light blinked on behind her. A floating metal drone hovered slowly into view. It was old and damaged, its voice crackling. "Identification, Lyra of Karen," confirmed. Lyra froze. "How do you know my name?" The drone tilted, scanning her face with a blue beam. "Memory link detected."
Primary Guardian, Sarah of Karen.
"Status missing. Tracking signal active." Her breath caught. "My mother? You know where she is?" "Affirmative," the drone replied. "Follow." "She is in Sector 9 quarantine zone." Lyra's hope rose like fire in her chest. Could it really be true? But then she remembered Ryan's warning. Someone doesn't want the truth to come out. "Who sent you?" she asked. The drone hesitated for a second. "Ambassador Hale," it said. But something in its voice was wrong. Too smooth, too practiced. Ryan's communicator had a calm tone, human warmth. This voice sounded artificial, forced. Lyra stepped back. "You're lying." The drone's lens flashed red. "Resistance detected. Following is mandatory." Before she could move, a mechanical arm shot out from its side. Lyra ducked, the metal claw missing her by inches. She grabbed a pipe from the floor and swung hard. The blow cracked the drone's sensor, making it buzz and shake violently. Sparks flew. Directive. Compromised. Lyra turned and ran as fast as she could. The tunnel split into multiple paths, and she chose one at random. The drone's red light faded behind her, but the sound of machines moving echoed from all directions. Something else was down there. She pressed her back against a wall, panting, and pulled the pendant from her neck. "Ryan," she whispered. "Please, if you can hear me." The pendant blinked once, then projected a small blue hologram of Ryan's face. His expression was serious, tense. "Lyra," the recording said. "If you're seeing this, it means the building systems have been compromised. Someone inside is using my codes. Don't trust anyone who claims to be sent by me unless they say the words, 'For peace, not power.' Remember that." The message ended. Lyra's eyes filled with fear and realization. The drone wasn't from Ryan. Someone was pretending to be him. She began to move again, slower this time, her senses sharp. The tunnel sloped upward, leading to a maintenance hatch. She climbed the ladder and pushed it open. Cold wind hit her face as she emerged into an abandoned factory district, full of rusted machines and broken signs. Sector 7. She read quietly from a faded board. She was close to Sector 9, the place the drone mentioned. Maybe her mother really was there. She walked carefully between the ruins. Every shadow looked alive. Her hands shook as she held the pendant tight. Then, from behind an old container, a figure stepped out. It was a tall alien woman, her skin pale blue, her hair tied back, her eyes soft and glowing silver, the same eyes Lyra saw in her own reflection. "Lyra?" The woman whispered. Lyra froze. "Mother?" Tears filled her eyes as the woman rushed forward and wrapped her arms around her. "I thought I lost you forever." For a few moments the world disappeared. The only thing that mattered was that embrace, the warmth, the scent, the love she thought she'd never feel again. But their reunion didn't last long. From the shadows behind the factory, several armed figures appeared. They weren't humans, they were mercenaries wearing black armor, faces hidden. One of them spoke in a harsh voice. "Target located. Both confirmed, child and mother. Secure them for extraction." Sarah's eyes widened. "Run, Lyra." The girl tried to pull back, but Sarah pushed her toward the exit. "Go!" Gunfire echoed through the ruins. Lyra stumbled forward, ducking behind debris as the air filled with burning light. She turned once and saw her mother fighting back, her hands glowing with strange blue energy. Karen magic, something humans feared and outlawed. But there were too many of them. A flash, a scream, and then silence. "Mother!" Lyra cried, trying to run to her, but a strong arm grabbed her from behind. A mask covered her mouth and everything went black. When she opened her eyes again, she was in a cold room, restrained to a chair. Across from her stood Captain Reese, the human officer from the tower. Reese folded her arms. "You should have stayed where you were, little hero." Lyra's heart sank. "Where's my mother?" Reese smirked. "She's where she belongs. And now, you're going to tell me what Ambassador Hale's really planning." Lyra stared at her, trembling. "He was only trying to help me." Reese leaned closer, her eyes dark. Then you're about to learn the truth, child. The ambassador isn't who you think he is. Lyra's breath caught. The words echoed in her mind like thunder. Not who you think he is. But deep inside she refused to believe it. Because kindness, true kindness, couldn't be fake, or could it? Lyra sat in the cold metal chair, her wrists locked by glowing restraints. The room was silent except for the hum of the security field. Captain Reese stood before her, arms folded. Her face calm but her eyes sharp as glass. So, Reese began slowly, circling Lyra like a predator. You really thought the ambassador was your savior, didn't you? Lyra's voice was weak but steady. He helped me when no one else did. He's a good man, Reese smirked. Good man? He's a liar, child. You think it's luck that you found his purse? That you walked into his life at the exact moment the council was voting against his peace plan? Lyra frowned. What are you talking about? Reese leaned closer. Ryan Hale's plan would have forced humans to share resources with alien colonies. It would have made you people equal. And you know what that means? It would have cost the council trillions. Do you really believe they would let that happen? Lyra's heart pounded. So they tried to stop him? They didn't need to. They just needed someone like you. Lyra's breath caught. Me? Reese nodded slowly. You were bait. A distraction. The perfect little story for the news feeds. An alien child and a kind human diplomat. The people fell in love with it. Now Rian can't be removed without looking like a monster. That's not true, Lyra cried. I found the purse. I returned it because it was right. Reese slammed her hand on the table, making Lyra flinch. You really think you found it by accident? Lyra stared, speechless. Reese sighed and tapped her wrist console. A hologram flickered to life, showing video footage, grainy but clear. A dark figure placing the purse behind a food stall. A few minutes later, a small alien girl appearing, digging through the trash, finding it. Lyra's stomach twisted. No, that's not possible. Reese smiled coldly. Oh, it's possible. Someone made sure that purse ended up where you would find it. And the moment you brought it back, Ryan became a symbol of hope. A hero the people couldn't ignore. Convenient, isn't it? Lyra's mind spun. She wanted to scream, but her throat felt dry. Who did it? She whispered. Who put it there? Reese's eyes glinted. That's what I want you to tell me. Because if Ryan isn't behind it, then someone close to him is. Maybe even one of your kind. Lyra shook her head. I don't know anything. Then you're useless to me. Reese turned away, pressing a button to call the guards. Take her to isolation. Before the guards could enter, a sudden explosion shook the entire building. The lights flickered, alarms blared, and smoke poured through the ventilation shafts. Reese drew her weapon. What in... The doors burst open and figures in white armor stormed in. They weren't council troops. Their helmets bore the symbol of the Diplomatic Security Corps, Ryan's personal guard. Stand down. One shouted. By order of Ambassador Hale, release the girl. Reese fired, hitting one guard in the chest, but the others returned fire. The room filled with chaos, shouting, smoke, and flashes of light. Lyra ducked as a stray blast hit her restraints, breaking them open. She fell to the floor, gasping. A hand reached out through the haze. Lyra, come on. It was Ryan. His face was covered in dust, his coat torn. Ryan, she cried, running to him. He pulled her close and led her out through the smoke-filled corridor. We don't have much time. They'll seal the exit soon, but Reese said you used me, she said between breaths. She said the purse was planted. Ryan stopped, his jaw tightening. There's some truth in that, Lyra froze. What? He looked at her with pain in his eyes. I didn't know you'd find it. Someone inside the diplomatic corps planned to stage a fake rescue, to make me look like a hero. But when you returned it for real, you changed everything. They lost control of their plan, so I wasn't part of their plan. No, he said firmly. You were the only honest thing in all of this. They ran through the burning hallway as explosions echoed below. Ryan stopped at a sealed gate and placed his palm on a scanner. The gate opened into an underground hangar filled with shuttles. Where are we going? Lyra asked. To find your mother. Lyra's heart leapt. You know where she is? I traced her life signature. She's alive, but being held in an off-world facility. They call it the Refuge. He activated the shuttle systems. Outside, council ships circled like vultures. As the engines roared, Ryan turned to her. Once we leave this planet, we'll be fugitives. You understand that? Lyra nodded. As long as we find her, He smiled faintly. Then let's do it. The shuttle lifted off just as the hangar exploded behind them. Flames filled the sky as they shot upward into the night. From the window, Lyra saw the city shrinking below, her old life vanishing in smoke and fire. Beside her, Ryan whispered to himself, "For peace, not power." Lyra turned to him, recognizing the secret words from his pendant, and for the first time, she truly believed him. But far below, in the ruins of the complex, Captain Reese stood among the smoke, alive and furious. She watched the shuttle disappear into the clouds and spoke into her comm. "Activate the hunter drones," she ordered coldly. "I want that girl alive." Stars streaked past the shuttle's windows as it sped through the void. For Lyra, it was her first time in space. She sat quietly, wrapped in a blanket, staring at the endless black dotted with light. It was beautiful, but also frightening. Rian sat at the controls, eyes focused on the holographic map. "We'll reach the refuge in 3 hours," he said softly. "That's where your mother is being held. I already sent a signal to a contact inside who can help us." Lyra turned to him. "You said it's called the refuge. It sounds like a safe place?" Ryan hesitated before answering. "It used to be, but now, it's something else. The council turned it into a research base for alien refugees. They claim it's to study adaptation, but I've seen the files. It's a prison with fancy walls." Lyra's stomach tightened. "So she's trapped there?" "Yes," Rian said. "And if we don't move fast, she'll be moved off the books completely. That means no one will ever find her again." The engines hummed softly. Lyra looked down at her hands. "Ryan," she said quietly, "back on Earth, Captain Reese said you were using me. Were you really trying to protect me, or just your plan?" Rian's face softened. "At first I didn't know. I just wanted to stop the council from turning people like you into enemies. But after I saw what you did, after I saw your courage, I realized peace isn't built in meetings or reports. It's built in hearts like yours." She didn't fully understand his words, but she could feel their truth. Suddenly, an alarm blared. The navigation screen flashed red. Rian cursed under his breath. "Hunter drones. They found us." Through the window, small metallic ships appeared, sleek, silver, deadly. They moved like wolves around the shuttle. Lyra gripped the seat. "What do we do?" Ryan flipped switches rapidly. "Hold on." The shuttle shook as energy bolts zipped past them. "They'll try to disable our engines. If that happens, we're done." He steered sharply downward toward a dense asteroid belt. The shuttle dove between spinning rocks, explosions flashing behind them. Lyra screamed as one drone exploded too close, rattling the hull. "They're getting closer!" Ryan's jaw tightened. "They're faster, but not smarter." He pressed a button, releasing small decoy flares. The drones chased them, mistaking them for the shuttle. "Now!" He pushed the thrusters to maximum. The ship shot upward, leaving the drones colliding with the asteroids. The shaking stopped. Silence returned except for the heavy sound of their breathing. Lyra looked at him in awe. "You're crazy," he smiled slightly. "A little." After a few minutes, the warning lights faded. "We're clear," Ryan said. "But that means Reese knows where we're headed. We'll have to land quietly." Hours later, the shuttle descended toward a large, icy moon. Below, in the middle of endless snow, stood a massive black fortress surrounded by glowing fences. The refuge. Ryan parked the shuttle behind a ridge of frozen cliffs. They stepped out, cold air biting their faces. Lyra pulled her coat tight and followed him toward a small service tunnel near the edge of the base. "Stay close," Ryan whispered. "Once we're inside, don't speak unless I tell you." They entered the tunnel, moving past flickering lights and humming pipes. The air smelled sterile, like metal and chemicals. Strange sounds echoed through the walls, machines, whispers, maybe even cries. Lyra shivered. "It doesn't feel like a refuge." "It isn't," Ryan said grimly. They reached a security door. Ryan placed a small device on the lock. It blinked green and opened with a hiss. Inside was a long hallway lined with glass chambers. Lyra gasped. Inside each chamber was an alien, sleeping, weak, or unconscious. Some were hooked to machines. Some were whispering in their sleep. "What are they doing to them?" she whispered. Rian's voice was filled with quiet anger. "Testing. They use these people to study how alien biology reacts to human environments. They call it integration, but it's cruelty, nothing more." As they passed one of the chambers, Lyra stopped suddenly. Her eyes widened. Inside, a familiar face rested beneath the glass. pale blue skin. Silver eyes. Mother, she whispered. Sarah lay still, connected to wires and monitors. Her breathing was shallow. Lyra pressed her hand against the glass. We have to get her out. Ryan checked the control panel. The locks are biometric. Only senior officers can open them. I'll override it. He began typing rapidly, his brow furrowed. But then a voice echoed through the room. Cold, sharp, and far too familiar. Well, isn't this touching? They turned and saw Captain Reese step out from the shadows, her weapon raised, flanked by armored guards. Ryan drew his pistol instantly. Reese, don't do this, she smiled faintly. You always were a fool, Ryan. You think one act of kindness can rewrite centuries of division? You're naive. Lyra stepped in front of her mother's chamber, trembling but brave. You're the one who's wrong. People can change. Even humans. Reese's eyes narrowed. Cute words. Let's see if they'll save you. She raised her weapon, and in that instant a loud crash shook the room. The lights flickered, alarms blared, and one of the glass chambers shattered from behind Reese. A massive alien figure emerged, roaring. Ryan grabbed Lyra's hand. Run! As chaos erupted, soldiers fired, glass broke, and steam filled the air. Lyra turned one last time, seeing her mother's eyes flicker open before everything vanished in white light. Smoke and alarm sirens filled the corridor as lights flickered red and white. Lyra's small hand clung tightly to Ryan's as they ran through the shattered hallway. Behind them, guards shouted and blaster fire echoed. The entire base, the so-called refuge, was collapsing into chaos. A deep, thunderous growl shook the air. The giant alien who had broken free moved through the fire, smashing everything in its path. Other chambers cracked open one by one, freeing weak but furious prisoners of all races. Karen, Tsar, even humans the Council had hidden away. The building had become a storm of rebellion. Ryan pulled Lyra toward a maintenance door. We have to get your mother before this whole place comes down. Lyra's eyes were wet with fear. But how? There are too many of them. Ryan stopped near a fallen terminal, typing quickly. Sparks flew. If I override the power grid, all security locks will fail. But that means I can't control what happens next. Every door, including the outer gates, will open. Lyra hesitated only for a moment. Then do it. He looked at her, surprised. You understand what that means? Everyone will escape, dangerous people too. Her voice trembled but stayed firm. Freedom is still better than cages. Ryan smiled faintly. You sound just like your mother. He hit the command key. The base shuddered again as lights went black. Red alarms blared. Doors hissed open in every direction. The hum of energy walls faded. And then, a voice echoed softly through the smoke. Lyra. The girl froze. She knew that voice. Through the haze, Sarah appeared, weak but standing, her eyes glowing silver again. She stumbled forward and Lyra ran to her, tears spilling down her face. Mother! They fell into each other's arms, trembling. I thought I'd lost you, Sarah whispered, holding her daughter's face. I heard your voice in my dreams. It kept me alive. Ryan smiled at the reunion but quickly turned serious. We have to move now. Reese will regroup. As if summoned by his words, Captain Reese's voice crackled through the speakers. Attention all units. Contain the breach. Kill the ambassador on sight. The alien subjects are expendable. Ryan swore under his breath. She'll destroy the whole base if she has to. Sarah looked at him, her voice calm but strong. There's a central core at the lower level. If we reach it, I can use my link to overload the system and stop her drones. Lyra grabbed her mother's arm. No, it's too dangerous. Sarah smiled gently. I'm not afraid, my star. You taught me bravery the moment you brought that man his purse back. Together, the three of them moved through the burning corridors, past freed prisoners running for their lives. They reached the core chamber, a massive sphere pulsing with blue light. Energy surged through cables like veins. Sarah placed her hands on the control pillar. Her silver veins began to glow brighter. My people were once energy weavers, she said softly. They used their life force to protect others. I can do the same. Ryan's eyes widened. You'll die if you do that. She looked at him sadly. Someone must end this cycle. If I flood the system, every security protocol will wipe itself. The Council will lose their control, but I won't survive. Lyra shook her head wildly. No, there has to be another way. Sarah cupped her daughter's face one last time. Listen to me, Lyra. You and Ryan, you both carry what this galaxy has forgotten, compassion. Don't let them turn it into hate again. Tears streamed down Lyra's cheeks. Please, Mom. But it was too late. Sarah closed her eyes and her body began to shine like a star. Energy rippled through the chamber, lifting dust and light into the air. The machine screamed as systems overloaded. Ryan pulled Lyra behind a pillar as blinding light filled the room. Then, silence. When the light faded, Sarah was gone. Only a faint shimmer of blue dust floated where she had stood. The alarm stopped. The base's lights dimmed to calm white. On the upper decks, guards lowered their weapons in confusion. The drones fell from the sky, powerless. Captain Reese stumbled into the control chamber, eyes wide with shock. "What have you done?" Ryan faced her, his voice steady. "She freed everyone, even you." Reese looked around at the quiet halls, her power gone, her orders meaningless. For the first time, her voice trembled. "You don't understand. The council will come for all of us." Ryan looked at her sadly. "Then let them come. But this time, they'll find the truth waiting." He took Lyra's hand, and together they walked past her, through the open gates into the cold dawn. Outside, the freed prisoners stood together under the pale sunrise, humans and aliens side by side, wounded but alive. For a moment, no one spoke. Then slowly someone began to cheer. Word spread fast across the colonies. The refuge had fallen. The truth came out. How the council had experimented on the innocent, how one alien woman had sacrificed herself to stop it. Across the galaxy, protests rose, alliances shifted, and walls between species began to crack. Weeks later, in the quiet halls of the rebuilt diplomatic tower, a memorial stood simple and glowing, with 3 words written beneath a carved figure of a woman and a child holding hands, "For peace, not power." Lyra visited often. She lived with Ryan now, learning, growing, dreaming of the stars. Sometimes she looked up at the sky and thought she saw her mother's light flicker there, gentle and eternal. And though many still doubted peace could last, one thing was certain: the kindness of one street girl, the courage of one diplomat, and the sacrifice of one mother had changed the fate of an entire galaxy forever.